let's get into a little bit of coaching. So let me ask you, a question, okay? If you were going to paint a room in your house, is there any room in your house that needs to be painted? We just moved this year, and I feel like I want to redesign the whole house and make it feel like ours. So I think I kind of want to repaint a bunch of things. Maybe some of you saw I redid my bedroom. But if you can think of a room that you've ever repainted or a room that you want to paint, what happens in that process? What happens? Do you just kind of walk in the room and just paint it blue or black as the song goes? What do you do? What do you do with the paint? Tell me about that. What's the process? Who knows? What's the first step? What's the first step in the process? Thank you. Carol says, I love your shirt. And it actually says right here, trust the universe. It's spiritual gangster. Of course it is. I love this brand. So the first thing you do is you put on a coat of primer. Primer, right? And for any of you who are asking about times, we'll explain. But basically, we have times staggered throughout the week so that when people need time during the day, we have that as well. So we'll get back to that. But I just wanted people to know that we do have an evening session as well. So what do we do first? We prime, right? So in order for the paint to stick, in order for us to actually do this thing, we first have to prime it. And this is really important. I'll tell you why. Because every year on January 1st or 2nd, people, they finally get over the partying or whatever, and they're like, okay, I want to have a new experience, and I'm going to go get new running shoes, and I'm going to learn about new habits, and I'm going to change my relationship, and I'm going to change all these things. And 2 weeks later, you February, let's give them 4 weeks. 4 weeks later, February rolls around, and people stop coming to the gym, and people aren't doing what they said so intently that they would want to do. Why is that? Because the real deal is you have to first have that you of you. You have to be primed in order for you to actually do that thing. We have to really actually look at the symptom of it, right? Like in our old house, there was a leak in the kitchen. So we had all this water coming out of the ceiling, and my husband sort of patched it. And then it came out at another part of the ceiling, and he patched it again. And then it came out somewhere else. So we called a guy. You called the guy, whoever the guy is. Call the guy. Call the guy. Did you call the guy? Is the guy coming? The guy's coming. So the guy came, and he went around, and he figured out that it was actually a balcony that we have over the kitchen, extending off of one of the bedrooms, that had a big hole in the balcony, and then that was running all the way down looking for the only part where it could come through, and there was a piece that it found, and it would come through in the kitchen. And so we would seal one place and it would come out another, because ultimately the real issue was the balcony had a leak. Makes sense, right? So when we say, like, I wanted to change something, or I wanted to accomplish something, and I just started like doing stuff, but it was just so defeating because nothing actually changed. It's like, well, we can't just patch it up in the kitchen. We want to actually go to the source of the issue, right? And change it. So what's really the deal? Well, what human beings can do is incredible. What they will do usually is mediocre. Think of an example of something somebody has done that's incredible. It could be someone like Amelia Earhart, or it could be someone like a friend of yours who got sober. Like, there are a million amazing things that people have been able to do. Truly. Like, people can do incredible things. People can save lives. People can overcome their own demons. People can build peace amongst other people. People can build fortunes from nothing. People can come up with ideas, right? What we can do is incredible. What we will do is in question. What we usually do is we play in our zone of sort of competence, not even in our zone of excellence, and very rarely in our zone of genius. And just to take a line from, that's Gay Hendricks, that's what he says. We have a zone of genius, but we often play in our zone of competence or in our zone of excellence. We don't even breach our zone of genius. So what's that all really about? So no matter who you read, whether you read Gay Hendricks or Eckhart Tolle or Don Miguel Ruiz, like wherever you go, Martha Beck, anywhere you go, when you get to the source of it and you find out what the leak actually is, it's this question that Gay Hendricks asks in his book, The Big Leap. And this question hits you right between the eyes. He says, you ready? How happy are you willing to be? How happy are you willing to be? And it's an amazing question because most people do not think of the question like that. They think of the question like, oh my God, how do I just get happy? Or what's going to make me happy? They don't say, how happy am I willing to be? They think, I want to be as happy as possible. But here's where I'm going with this. If you're really being intellectually honest, what's your favorite flavor of suffering? Is it guilt? Is it shame? Is it self-doubt? Is it self-criticism? Is it a story that everyone's lucky except for you? Is it a story that everything's ruined because you didn't have the right parent or college or funds in the bank? Or is it any of that? What's your favorite flavor of suffering? Because what Gay Hendricks does with people, and he worked at Stanford, he's a professor, he's brilliant. And he had this experience one day where he was at Stanford in his office, looking out at the quad, really happy. And he started thinking about his daughter, who at the time was away at summer camp. And he started thinking, oh my gosh, I hope she's okay. Oh my gosh, I hope she made friends. Oh my gosh, I hope she's not stressing out. Oh my gosh, maybe I should call. Oh my gosh, what if my daughter is actually having an anxiety attack right now because it's her first time at sleepaway camp? Oh my God, I'm going to call the camp. And so he calls the camp and takes him a second to get the right guy. And they're like, oh, your daughter, let me find out. Let me go find her counselor. And he's waiting and he's getting all anxious and all worried and worked up. And the guy gets on the phone and he's like, oh, she's great. She made a couple of friends. She's already eaten lunch. She's out on the volleyball court. And he's like, oh, thank you so much. And he hung up the phone and he thought to himself, what was that? Why did I do that? Why did I do that? He thought, I was happy. I had just had this great lunch meeting with a colleague. The weather was perfect. I'm feeling good. I'm healthy. Why did I just do that? And he said, that's the upper limit. That's the upper limit. How happy are we willing to be? Because you guys, it's so often that I talk to people and they're like, what I really want is, I want to make 100 grand. When I make 100 grand, I'll be happy. I really want to do this, then I'll be happy. Then I'll be happy. But that's really not the way it works. And thank God it doesn't work that way. But it doesn't work that way. It's anticlimactic, actually. In fact, when I was studying at the Mindful Awareness Research Center at UCLA, I remember they did a study on people and goals associated with happiness, sort of happiness being a place. Like when you reach this goal, when you achieve this thing equals now you're happy. And they found actually that there's this phenomenon that the day after most people have won the Oscar, they feel depressed. They feel very low. And it's because they think that this thing is going to do something to them, but it can't. It doesn't. So the real question is, and I'm going to ask you this now, how do you how do you want to feel every day? How do you want to feel every day? What would be a word that would describe it? What would be 2 words that would describe it? How do you want to feel every day? Do you want to feel peaceful? Do you want to feel connected? Do you want to feel abundant? Do you want to feel expansive? Do you want to feel free? Do you want to feel like you're more than enough? Fulfilled. Peaceful, joyful, I'm reading, content, invigorated, alive, present, inspired, at peace. I'm reading your words, and so many of them are so beautiful, and so many people feel very similar. Free, relaxed, safe, secure. So here's the deal. We have bought into a belief which is literally not true, which makes us believe that those things happen from the outside in, that our well-being is dictated by all these other things. Now, let me ask you the question another way. I said, how do you want to feel every day? And as long as we're here together, by the way, I hope you feel like this is like a safe space where you can like be seen. So answer if you feel like you can. As long as we're spending this time, the next question is, how do you feel every day? Not how do you want to feel, but how do you usually feel every day? Do you feel peaceful half the day? A third of the day? You said you want to feel free. Do you feel free most of the day? You said you want to feel like you're enough. Do you feel enough? Would you say 70%, 20%, 100, 90? Some of you are saying, yes, I do. Some of you are saying, I feel stressed, I feel scared, I feel anxious. Well, I'm right there with you. I have certain things that I will go back to. And there's a whole bunch of things that we can talk about that go into the upper limit. But I've yet to meet someone, because I've never met the Dalai Lama. I have met a lot of successful people. I have met a lot of people who have a lot of fulfillment, but I've yet to meet someone who doesn't come up against their resistance or up against their edge or up against their something at least some of the time. But what I have seen in myself and what I have seen in the people I spend time with is that the period of time in which I will fall into one of those states and then come back has shrunk. Because anything we practice, we get better at. For instance, if you know somebody who has a lot of anger, well, the more they've gotten angry in their life, the more they've practiced being angry, the faster they can get there. They can go to 0 to 60 like that. So too with patience. There are people who have a tremendous amount of patience. The more they've practiced that, it's literally, when I tell you, I've seen brain scans of this right here in the front of your brain. There is literally a muscle. Just like if you were to lift barbells and there's a muscle that's going to grow here physically, there's a muscle that's going to grow here physically. So the more you practice focusing your attention and you focus on compassion, gratitude, you literally will actually get better at doing that. And what happens is when you keep pressing, like a shoe, you're wearing Birkenstocks, and you keep pressing the same feeling and the same thought, the shoe will form to your foot, just like your brain will start wiring thoughts and feelings together like this, right? And it just becomes a habit, a neural pathway. And it's as easy as like Your mom says that one thing, it makes you think of this, which makes you feel that old feeling, which makes you think those three thoughts. Next thing you know, you are just flooded in shame. And you're like, how does she do that to me so fast? Well, it's not really her doing it. It's that you've kind of handed her a remote control to your nervous system. And when she pushes a certain button, it wires to this thought you have that's connected to an emotion, that's connected to a set of other thoughts, which connect to more emotions. And it happens so fast. And before you know it, you are right back in the shame or the guilt or the fear or whatever else. And type a 1 in the chat if you've ever experienced that. My mother-in-law, may she rest in peace, and I know that this is like so common, but it was for sure true for me. Like, she would say or do certain things and it was just like, oh, I'm right back, you know, and it has really nothing to do with that. It's like my own dance with it, right? My own dance with it. So the reason why the big leap is so powerful, the reason why this work is so powerful is because when we can have the courage and the kindness, being kind to ourselves, and we can acknowledge that we actually do spend time suffering. That's number one. That's step number one. We can then acknowledge that Gay Hendricks is right. How happy are you willing to be? We do have a say in it. And the more that we understand, and here's what I mean about priming. I work with people every day who have certain goals and certain dreams. Even I would say the word dream is more my people, you guys, than the word goal. But either way. And it's like, why can't I hit that dream? Why can't I make that manifested? Why can't I da-da-da-da-da-da? And it goes back to something super, super basic and simple. And it's just the way that we work. And it's almost like we understand our microwave and our car more than we understand the way we work. But in order to get a result, we need to have an action. And I think everyone can agree that if we keep getting the same result from the same action, we need to create a different action so that we have a different result. But it's the belief and it's the state of being that even creates the action. And so we have to actually prime ourselves so that we get into that place. So this is where we can start to make some shifts. My friend Evan Carmichael, I remember he was on the podcast and he said to me, have you ever noticed that you could have like all the time in the world and for whatever reason you like don't work on the book? You just like, you pass your laptop, you just don't get it written, you don't do anything about it. He goes, and then there's been other times in your life, you ever notice like you have some experience, you get inspired, you have some conversation, or you go to a concert, or you go to something sad like a funeral, and on the way home, you just feel this life force, this like bolt of lightning, and you just feel like you're about to take some bold action. Type a 1 in the chat if you've ever felt like, yeah, I've had a moment where like I just felt like something shifted and I was just like gonna shoot out of like the world like a cannon, like I was like ready to take some bold action. That's what we want. That's what we want. Like imagine if every day that you had the grace, the blessing to live here on this planet, imagine if you had the ability to get yourself into that higher vibration, that peak state, that place where you're ready to just do you and take that bold action. Honest to God, I would say 10% of my work now in this world is strategy and 90% is that. And what happens is you get the blessing of the fact that you can create it as a habit. You start to habitually do certain things, which makes you think certain ways, it makes you feel certain ways, which makes you then take certain action. And then those actions reinforce what you feel. And on it goes. So I want you to think about, and we talked about this a little bit earlier in the day, but it's always a cool thing to ask because it matters, because our attention on it will only increase the probability that it actually comes to pass. What specific thing, if you could be as specific as possible, and even if you did this with me earlier today, maybe you could be more specific. What specific thing would you love to see happen or come into your life in the next year? What would that look like? What would be something so awesome? I'll give you a second to write that down. So I'm going to read some of these. So, she said, take my grandkids to Disney. That's a specific, beautiful action. Publish my book and coach clients. I love it. Beginning a live event business. Purpose. A compatible man. These are really, really good. Making money with my art. Start my business. A new business. More disciplined. Beginning a live event business. Amazing. And what's a couple specific things that you could see happening with that? Like, oh, the reason that's exciting is because I can see myself sort of being able to take my kids on nice vacations. Or if that were to happen, I can see myself in this, I could see the scene, right? Here comes the girl walking out of the house with the iced coffee. She's excited. She's about to go on this meeting with this person to discuss something interesting. And what? Like, what comes up? What's exciting about it? We want to really feel, right? We want to really feel how good all of those things feel, because they will make it more powerful for us to be willing to change our state, right? To be willing to do what it takes to prime ourselves to be able to go do something amazing. And by the way, this is everyone, right? Like, I had Tim Grover on the podcast, and he's like, Michael Jordan meditates. Like, I don't know anyone who just says, like, yeah, I roll out of bed, I check my email, and my day is amazing. I don't have to do anything. I don't have to take a walk. I don't have to clear my mind. I don't have to go on a run. Like, I want you to understand something. Your brain is wired, I've told you before, to protect you, right? Your brain is wired to protect you. So I think about it like an escalator. When you're a kid, there's always a moment when your mom or your friend is going up the up escalator, and you say, I'll go up the down escalator and I'll meet you at the top. And what happens? She's going up the up escalator, you go up the down one, but you realize, oh, in order for this to work, I have to be ahead of it. That's kind of how the brain works. The brain was created in your body to protect you, to constantly look for danger. So in order for us to get to where we want to be, we have to be ahead of all that worry, be conscious of it. And instead of the absence of putting something in, we have to put in what we want, the gratitude. We have to feel right now. We have to feel the joy. We have to feel right now. We have to feel the feeling of freedom, right? And do something every day that makes you feel that way. Go outside without your shoes and enjoy this beautiful world right now, right? We have to get ourselves like pumped up and enjoy listening to a bunch of good songs in a row. And we have to do the things that physiologically, like, turn us like all the lights on. So we're like, let's do this thing. Like, let's do this thing. And then whatever the action is, we do. We have to take new action, right? We can't keep doing the same thing. So I asked everybody earlier, I said, what's one thing that almost everyone has failed at thousands of times, and eventually they've succeeded at it? And if you were here earlier, then you heard the answer. And we could probably think of other examples just like this. But the answer was walking, right? All of us start out as babies and we fall so many times, but we eventually, most of us, if we're blessed enough to have our bodies be able to do it, most people will walk even if they fall so many times. And that is such an incredible gift. So why do we not give up on that? Well, we we won't settle for that not happening. Our parents, the people who are around us, are like, you got this, you got this, you got this. And instinctively, we're like, we're just going to keep trying at it because we see them doing it. And we're like, well, we can do it too. And eventually you do. But what happens is if you watch babies, it's amazing. They will start to try different strategies. I remember my daughter, Eliza, she had like one of those crawls where, like, some babies crawl in a traditional sense. She started out on her tummy, sort of like scooting, and then she was trying to get on both of, to crawl with both legs, but she didn't. So that wasn't working. So then she would crawl with one leg and scoot the other one. And I just remember watching her like navigate, like, okay, that strategy doesn't work. This one does. She's like, oh, I can get across the floor this way. And then eventually it was interesting. She actually never went to two legs crawling. She went from two legs crawling to trying to stand up and then trying to take a few steps. And so we have to be willing to try different strategy, right? And so what's really, really powerful is what a human being can do when we are letting go of this suffering flavor that we feel disempowered and defeated, and we just keep turning on that station. I often say thoughts can be the worst. Like, thoughts can like take you down in a second. Like, it's just incredible. And you don't need to look very far because, first of all, your mind, I often think of like Stephen King. I'm like, you read a novel and you're like, he must be the most paranoid person because, like, look what he thinks about. Like, this happens and this happens. But like, so many of us have those kinds of thoughts. That the brain is amazing with its imagination and the things that we've been through, and then the ways in which we project what we've been through on right? And then, without that even being the case, which it already is, you look online and you see this thing and this thing and this thing and this thing, and you just get totally exhausted. You're totally in it. And when I started studying like mindfulness and all this stuff, I just realized that thoughts are just not facts. Like fake news, like your thoughts are not facts. Just because you think something doesn't make it true. Big shocker, right? Just because you think something doesn't make it true. But if you think it over and over and over and over and over again, your body just responds as if not only is it a good idea, it's like fact, it's like true. And then you start to go into all this worry and da. So we have to change it around. So I want you to think about something right now that you legitimately can be proud of. Not like hyperbole. Like, can you think of something in your life that you are actually proud of? That if somebody gave you an award for being like a great friend, or having great hair, or being a good bed maker, or having completed college when you didn't have the funds, but you did it anyway as a single mom, like, can you think of something in your life that you legitimately can be proud of? And if so, I'm going to sneeze. Write it in the chat. If so, write it in the chat. So, unicorn magical mist, she said, my son. So I want you to feel how you feel in your body when you turn that all the way up. And you let yourself be really, really proud that you had anything to do with that kid. Amy said, raising 3 amazing kids. Thank you. She said, the next person said, bless you. Rebecca, thank you. She said, bless you. Carrie said, the fitness classes that I teach. I want you to think about that, Carrie. Like, turn it all the way up. Like, how does it feel? And what if you let yourself smile? And like, really give yourself 1 second. I'm not talking like indulge like a freak for like hours. I'm just saying, like, could you give yourself like a moment to feel it, but feel it fully? Like, I'm so proud that I help this person with this, or that I actually like did a good job with this thing, or that I am proud about this one thing. Your art, right? Somebody said. How does that change? all of a sudden, what's going on in your body and your mind? It changes it a lot. And I've actually seen like the studies of what happens in the brain, and it's amazing. It changes it a lot. What what else? What else could you think of? Can you think of something in your life that you are so grateful for? So grateful for. Can you think of a person in your life? Someone who's been in your life, someone who was there, a grandparent, a parent, a friend, your child, that you are just so grateful for. Somebody who came into your world, and because of them, as she says in Wicked, because I knew you, I've been changed for good. And how does it feel to fully feel the gratitude that you feel for that person? Like fully feel, like turn it all the way up. Like, I'm so grateful. This person's kindness, this person's wisdom, this person's goodness, this person's humility, this person's integrity, this person's care, this person, I am so grateful. Right? So that like starts to change, right? And it's more simple than it seems, but we don't practice that. We practice from the second we wake up, we kind of practice living in the past. Like, we wake up, our mind has a habit of thinking a certain thought at a certain time, which sets off other thoughts, which sets off other feelings. And now we are living the past. It's Groundhog Day, and you are right back. 10 o'clock comes around, and you're like, wait. So earlier in this talk, I said, what do you want to feel? And you guys were like, I want to feel joy and happy and peace and all this stuff. And it's like, well, what do you actually feel? I feel this, I feel that, right? So part of what I love to do, it's interesting because I didn't even know I was doing it, but in Made to Do This, for instance, we start every one of my classes, we're on Zoom, and I play music and we dance to it. And I kind of like lip sing it. It could be my friend Rachel Platten's song, Fight Song. It could be a Meghan Trainor song. And it's amazing because I just intuitively said, like, we should all do that together. A lot of times we're like crying, singing Natalie Merchant, and then we get into the work. And I realized that that actually has such a big effect on us as a group because it changes our vibration. And then we're just in a better place where we can actually process. They say that when they look at kids and kids' ability to learn, what's the biggest thing at play? Do you guys know? If you've done any research on this, it's executive function. It's the ability for kids, like when they sit down before they take the exam, that they can kind of like get centered, know where their pencil is, know where the thing is, and sort of be operating like on all cylinders. And so that's the way we are. So the first step is like, we need to prime ourselves, right? And who we spend time with is who we become. So we have to raise the energy. We have to hold on to people who we want to be just like. Remember that. Who you spend time with is who you become. That's just what the data shows. You become the 5 people you spend the most time with. And that's why they say, like, if you're a parent and you have kids in middle school, like, make sure that the people that those kids, because you could be the best parent and that kid could get involved in a group of girls who's so gossipy. It's not good. It's not good, right? So we got to spend time with people who you stick to, who raise you up. And then we have to model behavior that strategy is working, right? Because there are a lot of things, and I said this earlier, but I mean, if you run east and you look for a sunset, will you find it? You won't. Because that's just not where it is. And it's kind of like, do you remember when we were all in second grade? I don't know if you guys did this, but we had a little bit of a like instruction sort of assignment. And the teacher said, read everything on the paper, and then let's see, who can get through all the instructions first. Go. And so what did most kids do? They read the first thing that said, pick up the chalk. And then the second thing said, go put shoes in this cubby. And then the third thing said, da 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 da. But she said, read the whole thing and then get started. And whoever does it first. Well, when you read all the way down, the very last thing, it said, now that you've read the whole thing, I don't want you to do anything. I just want you to sit there. And if you've actually not done anything, then you won, most likely, because probably everybody else just started to do all of the things. Type a 1 in the chat if you did that assignment when you were in middle school. In second grade, in elementary school. So I remember doing that. And I remember running around, and this guy, Josh, was sitting at his desk, and I'm like, why is he sitting there? Why is he sitting there? Because he read the whole thing. So I think sometimes what happens is we have a dream, we have a goal, and we set ourselves up to fail because we are not, let's work backwards. We're not using the right strategy. We're not surrounded with the right people. And we are in a lousy state. So there's no person really ready to apply any action. So we don't feel our best. We're not ready to be bold. We're not taking the right action. We don't know what the right action is. And we're around people who are the same. And then we get to the end of the year and it's December 31st. And we're like, this year I'm going to be in a good relationship. This year I'm going to lose weight. This year I'm going to finally get out of debt. And it just doesn't happen. So we need to actually stop saying, when you hear people who are like, okay, here's what you got to do. Come to my seminar. I'm going to tell you the 15 ways that it's back up. Before you tell me the ways, I got to make sure that I actually am going to be prepared to succeed because I can actually hear it and I'm ready to do it because I'm emotionally unlocked from that suffering place, which takes away all my energy. It's really interesting because they did a study at Harvard and they asked people, what do you think it will take for you to be more productive at achieving your goals? And people said, I need more sleep. I need more money. I need better food. And so they said to people, great. Oh, and the other one was time. I need more time. People usually think that the thing that's standing in the way of them achieving their dreams is time and money. So they did this study and they were like, here you go. We're putting you in this study. You're going to be given the time. You're going to be given the money. You're going to be given the sleep. You're even going to be given the best food possible, the green juices, all the things. Do you think, and I'm leading the witness here, but do you think it made a difference? It didn't. What they found is that the thing that correlates to people being productive in actually completing and achieving their dreams and meeting their goals, it wasn't about sleep, it wasn't about money, it wasn't about time, it wasn't about food. It was their energy. And what I mean is, have you ever had a day where you barely slept the night before, but you are so on top of the world, excited about this day, you can't even sleep. You have more energy than you know what to do with. What's an example of that? I remember the night before my wedding. I remember the night before the first day of school. I remember so many things. I'm traveling to places that I've been for the first time. And you have a little bit of jet lag, but you're so excited and you want to go out and see everything. You can't wait till the stores actually open, the sun rises, right? So then what really is the source of the energy? It is the questions that we asked earlier. It's how happy are you willing to be? It's I'm going to take my life back. It's I'm going to decide once and for all to create a habit where I am wiring myself and I am getting excited and putting myself in a state of gratitude and freedom. And I'm going to literally focus on those things. And I won't let myself miss that. And I will make sure that I am then showing up, right? And then when I show up that way fully, it's amazing how we can then apply the action and the behavior. And then, of course, you get a different result. Who's excited about this? So, this is a little bit, I hope that this is helpful. Does